Hello friends, in this video we are going to talk about everything related to dropdowns. There are three types of dropdowns: simple dropdowns, dynamic dropdowns, and dependent dropdowns. The uniqueness about all of my video is I'm going to talk about all three types of dropdowns in one single video so that I save you the trouble of going through multiple videos on YouTube or Google. Without further ado, let's get started. First, I'm going to create one more worksheet in this file. And this worksheet I'm going to use to create drop-down menu. So let me rename this as drop-down menu. And this is the tab where I am going to actually have the drop-down. So I'm going to just say drop-down. Let's get started with creating simple drop-downs which are not dynamic in nature. Let's say we want to name it as assessment, and the assessment is yes, no. I'll take another example of color and I will mention few colors over here: red, blue, green, yellow, orange. So to create simple drop-down, what we need to do is we need to select the area which we want to be under the drop down, and then we can just click over here and name that range which we have selected as assessment. Now the reason why I chose the name assessment was just because the column header was assessment. You can choose any other name if you want the name to be different. Similarly for color as well, I'm going to select the range and I'm going to name it as color. Now, this is the simplest way to name a range. However, there is one more method of naming the range, which is available under Formulas, Name Manager. So if you go to Name Manager, as you can see, I've already created two names: assessment with a range and a color with the range. If you want to add new, you can just click on new and it will basically allow you to create a new named range. So I'm going to just cancel this one, close this one, and come back to my drop down tab. Let's say I will create the same name and call it as assessment. This is where I want to have the drop down. So I'm going to go to data, validation, and it will open up this box. In this box, I'm going to go and select list. As soon as I select list, there will be two things over here which are automatically ticked. Please don't change that. Let it remain as ticked. Coming to the source, I'm going to say equals to and the name of that range, which is assessment, and I'm going to say OK. Now if I go over here, you can see I got the drop downs. Similarly, if I want to create a drop down for color, I'm going to write color over here, go to data, validation. Similarly, in the allow thing, I'm going to select list, keep this two as ticked. In source, I'm going to type equals to and then color and say OK. And then I got the drop down over here. I can just copy this drop down to whichever cell I want to extend the drop downs to. Let's say I want the drop down to be there till row number 30, and I can just say Control C, Control V, and I'm going to get all the drop downs over here. Now, let's go back to drop down menu. As you can see, if we want to add something over here, let's say we add something over here as not applicable, right? And if we go back to drop down, if we go and see, we are not able to see not applicable. One of the way we can basically include this is we can go to name manager, we can click on assessment, and as you can see on assessment, the range is from A2 to A3. We can click on that, change that to A4 and press close. And it's asking me to whether I want to save the changes or not, and I'm going to say yes. If I do that, if I come back to my drop down, now I can see yes, no, and not applicable. However, This is definitely more cumbersome method. So I'm going to teach you now how to make a dynamic drop down. Let's take an example of color. So I'm going to copy color over here. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to select the range starting from color. The difference from the earlier range was I selected from red to orange. Over here I'm selecting even the column header. Then I'm going to go to insert and I'm going to convert this column into table. Select the orange. So I'm going to click on table and it gives me the range of from 1 to 6. Don't forget to tick that my table has headers because I have selected from headers, right? And then say OK. It automatically becomes a table. And then we have to give a table name. So we can click over here and give a table name. Since I already have color as one of the table names, so I'm going to call this as color 2. Now if I come to the drop down menu, if I name this column as color 2, then let's create the drop down. So same method, we will go to data, then we'll go to validation. In allow, we are going to select as list. Now this is where the difference is. In source, earlier we just used to do equals to and name of the range. Over here we are going to say equals to and then we are going to say indirect, open bracket, then within inverted commas we are going to say the name of the table and close the bracket and then say OK. Now if you look at it, we got the drop down. The advantage of this now is, let's say I want to add a new color, say black, and I just type black over here. The table automatically expands. And if I go back to drop down, then I'm going to see black over here. And if I want to remove one of the rows from the table, just right click, go to delete table row and black gets deleted. If I come back over here and see there is no black now. So the dynamic drop downs becomes very easy if we are going to use table as a format. Now let's move on to our third topic, which is dependent drop downs. For dependent drop downs, I'm going to take a different example. Let's say I want to take an example of country, which is India, Australia. Now, depending upon the country, I want to select the cities. So I'm going to define the city's name over here. So Indian cities, Delhi, Mumbai, Kolkata, Chennai, Indore. Let's name Australian cities over here. Australian cities. Sydney, Melbourne, Brisbane, Perth, Canberra. The first step is we are going to insert a table for the countries. So we are going to select the range, go to insert and then select table, click on my table as a headers and then say OK. Then we should define the table name, which is country over here. Now these two columns are going to be dependent drop downs and dependent upon what we select under this particular drop down, whether India or Australia. So if we select India, we should get options of only Indian cities. If we select Australia, we should get options of only Australian cities. And hence, when we are defining the name for this, that's where we need to be careful. So the first step is same, we are going to insert a table. So we are going to insert a table. We'll say my table as headers, say OK. And in the table name, we are going to say India, which is same as what we have put under country. Similarly for Australian cities, we are going to say insert, table, click on this, say OK, and define the table name as Australia, which is exactly same spelling as what under the country. Do remember this words needs to be one letter word and not two letter word. Now let's come back to drop down. So in the drop down, the first drop down which we need to create is country. So we are going to say country, go to data, validation, same process, list. Over here we are going to say indirect, inverted commas, country, close the bracket and say OK. And there you go, we get country. Now over here we have to say cities. City. The way we are going to create the drop down over here is we are going to go to data, validation, same select list over here. In the source we are going to say equals to indirect, open the bracket and link with this cell. Now it will automatically give you $sign. So I'm going to remove the $sign and I'll tell you why in a minute, and then click OK. So it asks the source currently evaluates to an error. Do you want to continue? I'm going to just say yes. And now if I select, let's say India, I'm going to get all the cities over here. Now let's copy the formula for the cities over here and copy the formulas over here as well. And this is the reason I said remove the $sign, because if you would have kept the $sign, it would have automatically been linked to only G2. But what you want is to be linked with each and every cell over here, and that's why I removed the $sign. So if I select Australia over here, I'm going to see a drop down which says only Australian city. Now definitely the advantage is, since we created a table over here, this is dynamic as well. So this is not only dependent drop down, it also explains you how to create a dynamic and dependent drop down. That's all what I had for this video. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you want to look at more videos, do visit my website, which is www.startperformers.net. It also has many niche training courses. If you like this video, please drop a like, do subscribe to my channel and click on the notification button so that whenever I upload the new videos, you are able to get the notification. Till then, enjoy and keep learning Excel.